There's no problem too big or small, no issue too hot or cold, and no subject these gentlemen won't talk about. Let's head into the lab to see what they're working to figure out today.
Let's get into it and get down to it. Welcome to Figure It Out. This is George Grumbacher. Joining me as always is Centauri Minor.
Hello, folks.
Helping us move from awareness to action today is Jay Cory, the president and CEO of the Phoenix Rescue Mission. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. Well, thank you very much. I'm pleased to be with you guys today.
Set the clock, Centauri. We've got 45 minutes to solve homelessness.
Okay.
But before we do that, Centauri, do you often give money to people on the street when they ask for it?
That's a good question. Typically, no, I don't. Mainly because I don't carry cash. But I think that's really the only reason. I mean, if I have money, sure, but I never really think about to do it. Yeah.
Fair enough. I saw on the website, Jay, that that's not necessarily good to do. People are, I don't know if panhandling is an impolite term, but when people are panhandling, it's not necessarily good to give them money. Why is that? Or is it?
I don't want to be too absolute with this, but truthfully, I think that if what you're really trying to do, and this is what I do not give money to people on the streets that are asking at panhandling. I basically give them a Phoenix Rescue Mission referral card, which basically entitles them to a free meal, shower, clothes, whatever, and actually they can call us and we'll even come pick them up. So if they're really truly, so it gets to the point of motivation. Or they really wanting help, or are they going to take your money and purchase alcohol or drugs or whatever? We know firsthand of people that actually live on the streets and support a full-blown heroin addiction. Panhandle until they get enough money to last through the day, have their campsite that they go to, camp out for the night, start all over again tomorrow. So I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to support that. There is still a word called enabling. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have love and compassion, so I don't think it's loving to help support habits that are harmful to people, especially when you can provide them with a healthy option, healthy alternative.
Got it, and that information is on the website, so I appreciate that.
PhoenixRescueMission.org.
I always like to put Centauri on the spot and hopefully make him uncomfortable a little bit.
No, that's all good.
So Jay, there's roughly speaking 25,000 people in Maricopa County that do not have a home. 35% of those folks are families. Tell us a little bit about what you and Phoenix Rescue Mission are working on.
I think that, well, first of all, homelessness, or individuals that are facing homelessness, is not a one-size-fits-all population, and they are people. And, there's a stereotype that can often go with that. And I think that we need to be very conscious that each person has his own case, his own story, his or her own story. And so the approach is not universal. They all need a job, they all need a house, whatever. So our personal philosophy is basically we want to engage people as individuals or family units or couples or whatever we encounter. And basically we want to engage them because you go to an emergency room and you walk in and the nurse says send him to get a triple bypass. That's probably not very good. You might want to take the pulse first and find the blood pressure and find out what the problem is. So I don't think that we have any kind of a preset. Here's the solution that fits everybody, because you are dealing with people that have addiction issues, that need treatment, and they don't necessarily need to be in long-term housing. They just need to get healthy. And you got people that are there for economic reasons. You got a lot of people that are there with mental illness. So you have to have diverse solutions. I like to call it a continuum of programming, comprehensive continuum of programming to engage people with these different needs. And then probably the greatest truth is it's not even as simple as I just described. I mean, people, there is no such thing, in my opinion, today as somebody just has an addiction problem. I mean, it's an addiction, it's vocational, it's, probably life skills. I mean, all of these problems are complex. So I think it's extremely important to engage each individual and do an assessment of the individual, find out where they're coming from, what their obstacles are to what is their definition of success. Might be different than yours, and what obstacles are in their path for them to experience the quality of life that they desire. And then our job then is to we've designed many, but we want to place them on the appropriate solution pathway that fits their situation. We call it Rescue, Assess, and Place. We've even created a rap unit and a rap song, by the way. But Rescue, Assess, and Place is get somebody that's drowning to a safe place, and then meet their basic needs, do an assessment to find out why they're in the situation that's drowning, and even what is their motivation. I don't really want to get well, I just want to panhandle and support my heroin addiction. Well, I can have the best programs in the world, but if you don't want them, and then place them in the appropriate solution pathway that fits for them.
So in the buckets that you mentioned, I know there are probably many more, but the categories that you specifically talked about were addiction, the working poor, for lack of a better term, and then mental health. So walk us through some of the interventions that you have so what does the programming look like for someone who's battling addiction, or someone that's just lost a job and they were evicted from an apartment? So what are the things that you're actually doing for clients?
I think you'll also understand that we view ourselves within the framework of the greater community and the resources that are available in the community to meet various needs. Our particular sweet spot, our niche, which I think that we are best at. I don't want to say we're not good at all the things we do, because I don't want to do them if we're not good at them, but is recovery. It's addiction recovery. We call it recovery from life-controlling problems. I don't even call it addiction recovery anymore, because you're not dealing with purely an addiction. You're dealing with a person, and you have to have holistic solutions. And you're dealing, if you help somebody to learn how to stay abstinent, and maybe they're thriving in their recovery, but they can't sustain themselves vocationally, then they're going to fall flat on their face. So it's a total person recovery program is kind of the concept that I'm painting, and that's what we provide. So we have both short and long-term residential recovery programs. Again, I want to be careful. I did not say addiction recovery only. It's recovery from life-controlling problems. And there's three main components. One is we are definitely a Christian ministry. We don't apologize for that. So we use a concept of discipleship, Christian discipleship. We want to help people to grow spiritually. Then we believe in a professional approach to recovery. So we have licensed professional counselors. We have interns from various academic institutions that are working on their master's or licensure. We mix it with recovery coaches. So we believe in a well-trained professional clinical team, because I think you need special skills to be able to get down into. So again, addiction or life control, you're usually a symptom of a greater problem, a soul problem, a trauma problem. So we want to be able Christian discipleship, recovery from life controlling problems, and vocational development. Clients in our program here or in the counterpart program down at 35th Avenue, our Community Solutions Center for Men, they will spend half of their day in a vocational development. Work therapy at the very, very beginning, soft skill development, just be on time, safety, don't mix ammonia and bleach, just, basic work site type of things. But then we want to place them into vocational development pathways, the most pronounced of which I'd like to talk about at some point is our food service managers training, as an example. So bringing it back it's a mixture of Christian discipleship, residential Christian discipleship, recovery from life controlling problems, and vocational development all wrapped together. So it's not like you do this one and then you do this one and then you do this one. You're going to spend part of your day in each one of those areas, and we treat each one of those areas as equally important.
Can you briefly just give us a story of a client that has gone through this, so that our listeners can kind of wrap their heads around what it looks like?
Okay, so one that comes to mind, from homelessness to tremendous success. Let me tell you, one. Why did you say one? Can I go two? Can I have three? Actually, in this room just a minute ago was a young man who Basically, he actually migrated here from Florida years ago. Homeless on the streets, in and out of jail, addiction, heroin addiction. The governor's declared state of, I mean, we've had some great success from people coming off of opiates and heroin addictions and recovery. So anyway, Jesse came again, coming off the streets, was released from jail, walking by the mission. Comes in, we build relationship with him. He's only intending to stay a few days to, non-committal. I really just, need some help getting my feet back on the ground. Then he kind of gets hooked, goes all the way through the program, goes through what we call servant leadership training, which is an attachment program where I'm really developing leadership skills and I'm learning it. My life is not really all about me, it's about serving others. And then he's so hooked, he goes and says, I'm going to go through the whole 1 year ministry training program. So he was actually, our whole continuum of care can be up to 2 years long. So he goes through the ministry training program, which is another year. We're showing Brian Mueller around from Grand Canyon University. We have a great relationship with GCU. And he offers a scholarship to one of our graduates. He was so moved by seeing the transformation that was taking place. And so he just left it up to us to decide what the parameters were. So we had an essay contest. You had to be this, and this. You had an essay contest. Jesse wins it. So Jesse is coming to the end of his ministry training program, wins the essay contest, is on a four-year full scholarship to Grand Canyon University, working on addiction counseling. He works for us. He's now we're talking something that was 2 years ago. So he's like going into his junior year. He's got a 3.8.
Nice.
Wow.
He works for us. He was in this room just now helping us to design another program to be more effective in interfacing with people coming out of crisis. And he feels that his life is called to help this type of work. Now, I haven't even told you the good part yet. How did he even get to us? So he ends up in front of a peer support specialist who's actually working for another agency, who was a graduate of our program. She'd been a graduate for a couple of years. So Jesse ends up in front of her. She says, dude, you need to go to the mission and go through their program, right? So he goes through the program and all of that and the whole story that I just told you. She hears on the news about Jesse being awarded a scholarship with Grand Canyon. He says, that's the guy that I helped to get down there, right? So she said, I'm going to go down and see that guy. Encouraging. So she comes down to see him, and of course you're probably already thinking, what's the end of this story? So they hit it off real well. They started dating. They got married, and now Jackson is about 2 months old. So
that is so cool.
So we're talking about a 4-year clean graduate helps a 2-year, a 2-year at that time clean graduate helps a client get in the program, who now he's like 3 years or something like that, and she's like 5 years, and they've been married for over a year, and they just had their first son.
That's a great story.
So that's great. And I would say that is a great story, but that's one of many.
Great.
Homelessness to thriving and not living on government funds.
Awesome.
And none of that, by the way, costs the taxpayer anything, really.
Well, that's something I was certainly curious about. Everybody wants the magic bullet or the pill that they can take and it's going to make everything better. And it seems like from the little bit of research that I did in advance of our conversation today, there are concepts like housing first, where they say we'll just get people in housing and everything will take care of itself.
Right.
And intellectually that certainly makes sense to me, but what you've been talking about makes a lot more sense, where you bring somebody in and you analyze their personal situation and then get them the appropriate treatment.
Right.
How are you able to be nimble where maybe others it's I'm a hammer so I hit things?
Yeah, so Well, let me just say again, let me go back to the point that healthy communities have a portfolio of solutions. So if we were the only thing, then we actually would be doing a lot of other different things that other providers are doing because the need would be there. But if other providers are doing that, then we can stay in our sweet spot and really. So housing first is, first of all, for people to help people get into housing is a good thing. I do think that housing first was really developed around a concept that severely mentally ill individuals do not do well in a shelter environment. Duh. So I'm wondering how many billions of government dollars. I'm on a podcast. I should not be saying things like that. So no, and I 100% agree with that. That's the solution to me. That is the most viable pathway for mentally ill people on the street. Is get them in the housing, and then surround them in the housing with case management services, and support them, help them to get stabilized, get the services that they need so that they can begin to function and hopefully at least have the quality of life that they can have. And then words like permanent supportive housing, which I think probably would more so apply to that particular population. Where I break ranks from that is when you superimpose a solution that has had success in a particular subsegment, you superimpose that to all of homelessness. And I just would differ with a lot of my colleagues on that approach. I think that, first of all, and then, so there's different philosophical approaches. You understand that our mission statement is not ending homelessness. Our mission statement is providing Christ-centered, life-transforming solutions to persons facing hunger and homelessness. So we're really more so interested in the transformation of the person into experiencing the fullness of the quality of life that they can have. And thereby doing that, we're going to be putting major dents in homelessness and poverty and other things, right? So that goes back to the person-centered approach, and each person is his own person and assess each individual. So if my report card is about ending homelessness, the fastest way to end a homelessness for an individual is take a homeless individual and put them into a housing. Okay, then I have achieved my mission. But if my true mission is to permanently end homelessness in society forever, at some point I think that you have to question, is it appropriate for everybody? And the fact that I have a homeless person that I placed into a housing situation, are they going to get healthy? Or are they going to become, in essence, a ward of the state, support forever? So I say, look, if I look at an individual and I think that they have, they think, and mutually, they can have a life without having to go down that pathway. And I've been doing this coming up on 30 years, and I've literally seen thousands and thousands of people that just needed to get clean and sober. They needed to be taught how to live life on life's terms. They needed a chance. They didn't ever have really formative development and training on how to be victorious in life. And I've seen them go through the program, go get an apartment, go buy a house, have families, and prosper and thrive. And I think that's a better quality of life. So I don't want to rob somebody of that pathway. I want to say, if we can go that way, let's go that way. And now, don't get me wrong. Let me come back to here. Particularly with women. We have one of our staff members here that actually runs our rep unit who's got 5 years clean as a graduate of this program. One of our first graduates here. And Sierra, she's got 4 children. So, okay, I go through the program. I develop the vocational skills. I recovery from life controlling problems, Christian discipleship, and I graduate, but I still have 4 children. Now we have a licensed child care facility here, so we're able to accommodate that and really help her children to deal with their issues and get well. But yeah, she needed supports for a while. She needed to be in subsidized housing. And so to me, those social supports, which are things that you need while you're going through a process, I think are vitally important.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not disrespecting any of that. I'm just saying that that should not be the end. That should be a means to an end. So Sierra now is free, and has her own place and is doing well. And one of her children is right down the street in elementary school. Actually, 3 of them are. I think I might be saying something wrong, so I better be quiet on that. I think she has 3 in Capital Elementary, and 1 is older.
Well,
we may have already been touching on this, but talking about Phoenix, Arizona, what are the unique issues that you deal with here versus other markets, other cities?
Heat.
Yeah, it's hot out here.
It's do you notice that it's hot outside?
turns out.
So look, I'm from Georgia, right? And so 95, and you're soaking wet with sweat, and the humidity. And then I get on the plane and I land in Phoenix, and it's 115. And so, how do you like your chicken? Do you like it baked? Or do you, but they're both very uncomfortable. But I think in this market, back east, particularly Georgia, even in Atlanta area, I mean, people could die on the streets,
Sure.
freezing to death in the winter. And so we really had a focus on, when the temperature dropped below 36 degrees, we went to emergency mode. Our street outreaches had blankets and, kits. We were bringing people back into the shelter that had earlier decided they were going to sleep on the streets. And here it's like we've got a campaign, it's called Code Red. And it's a summer heat relief effort, and because people die on the streets, and that's not just people on the streets, that's the elderly, that's the shut-ins. So basically we have a huge campaign, and I think we will hit somewhere around 1.5 million bottles of water this year that have gone out to keep people on the street hydrated, keep people that elderly shut-ins, whatever. So I know for a fact, because we've been in situations where first responders were right there, or we actually even called them, where lives were physically saved. In a couple of instances, even one this year, where the person would have been dead because they were literally going out. And so, I think that heat is huge. So usually you kind of, especially when you get the snowbirds and they leave for the summer and everybody thinks, things die down. Well, it doesn't die down for us.
No.
It actually picks up with a whole different brand of ministry that we, a special added ministry that we do during the warmer months.
So to piggyback on George's question,
Yep.
I know that Phoenix has its unique issues, but it's
Yeah.
also one of the few cities that's had this collective impact model where different agencies, public-private partnerships have come, and Phoenix is now kind of the exemplar nationally in how to deal with homeless populations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think that Phoenix is, because I think the leadership from the state level, from the county level, the cities level, not just the city of Phoenix, though I do certainly believe the city of Phoenix is, is not in denial that there's a problem and pretending that maybe it'll go away, that, there's action being taken to address the problem, be creative in the solutions. We are a part of the MAG continuum of care. I think that there has been a willingness in this market to think outside the box, to be innovative and creative. What I particularly love about what we're doing lately is our street outreach, and we're in the thick of that. We have our what we call our Hope Coach ministry, but we have a street outreach ministry. We have teams that go out. We partner with Community Bridges, the crisis units that go out, encounter homeless individuals on the streets, so we're rescuing a lot of people that the public probably doesn't have a clue that we're doing. And a lot of them are actually, and we've seen a really big increase in the number of people that we're actually bringing back from the streets to get engaged in our services. To me, that's a touchdown. I mean, it's not just a matter of doing some sort of here's a bottle of water on the street, but Chaplain Cliff, our street outreach chaplain, he knows most of them by their first name out there. And, sometimes it's that many trips to know Sally, and until Sally finally trusts you enough to take that step. So we've had people that we've had multiple engagements on the streets that ultimately get on the Hope Coach, come back here and go through this program, and then have a life. And again, I could tell you stories about that. It happens every day.
Awesome. You said you wanted to talk about your food service management training.
Yes.
I assume to a degree that plays in or works into your new cafe or your new restaurant that's opening up.
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about that, please.
So the history with that is when you are running operations like this, you don't usually receive government funding or very little government funding. Because you're a faith-based organization, you're going to hold fast to that perspective. You have to be very creative in how you're going to fund what you do. So we're always thinking entrepreneurially, 1 + 1 = 5, how are we going to do this? And so, we're a huge food service operation. I mean, my goodness, we feed a lot of people every day, our own clients. That's a lot of people to take care of. Well, our ladies in our recovery program here need to learn how to prepare and deliver food. So that was kind of the birth of it. It was thinking, well, 1 + 1 = 2 is you feed people because they're your responsibility to feed them. But then, really they need to learn how to do it themselves. And then we started thinking about what are some industries that we can actually create so that we can use that to help teach entrepreneurial skills and thinking outside the box. Because I think the main thing we're trying to instill is you can be whatever you want to be. You don't just have to go get a job. I mean, you might open a business. So we want them to thinking freely and thinking beyond the limitations of what they can see. So anyway, I'm a social enterprise guy. Like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and back in Atlanta, had different kind of industries in the program model. We were automobile dealership at one point by reconditioning cars and selling them. Guys were learning skills. We were appliance repair operation. We actually made furniture and sold it. So here we kind of landed on something that the food service manager's training is. We recognize that where are you at during the Valley of the Sun? Very big service industry area. Food service is huge. Hospitality industry is huge.
Yeah.
So how can we, and so we did research in the marketplace to determine, first of all, we've got to get people up to a sustainable wage rate job. So it's not going to do any good if you go through this glorified culinary thing and you're qualified to flip burgers when you're done. So we said we got to get them up to at least an assistant manager level. Okay, so if we are producing people that are able to enter into the hospitality industry, food service, at an assistant manager, their wage rate should put them above the poverty level. That's our homework. So we laid it out and started doing it. We started with Mission Possible cookies. And you can go to giftcookies.com.
Give cookies?
Gift.
Gift cookies.
Giftcookies.com. You can go to missionpossiblecookies.org, same website. Or you can go to phoenixrescuemission.org and it links it right over. But basically, if I walked you over to our restaurant, you would see a cookie factory. And basically, we are taking orders. We're shipping cookies all over the United States. A business who can say thank you, a realtor can say thank you to somebody that bought a house, put an order in through the website. We ship them a cookie. So basically,
that's great.
It's a gift cookie operation. And so they're over there learning. Yeah, so the least that they're learning is how to bake cookies. Mm-hmm. It's really not about that. It's learning how to think different. Shipping, so there's customer service, there's a website, there's filling orders, there's the whole aspect. So we went from cookies to catering. And catering hasn't gone big yet because we knew that we were going to go to cafe. We were blessed in 2015 with an opportunity to buy Oaxaca Restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Oaxaca Restaurant is, right now we're sitting at 338 North 15th Avenue. So we're about 100 yards up of 15th Avenue from Van Buren. And just south of us, between us and Van Buren, is Oaxaca Restaurant. Oaxaca Restaurant is now Mission Possible Cafe. And we're going to launch on October the 2nd. It's a breakfast and lunch menu. It's fast casual, Southwestern, with a Mexican grill. And I was able to sample some of the wares about an hour before you guys got here, because we are full speed now getting ready to open this restaurant on October the 2nd. It is a full restaurant. It's a training restaurant for people that are in a food service manager's training. It's a training restaurant, but there's actually full-time employees that are going to be serving as coaches to help. But basically, it's breakfast and lunch, 6:30 to 2:30, 7 to 2:30. We're really focused on the Capitol because that's right there. So we want everybody in the Capitol. Can they hear me? We want everybody in the Capitol to come get your breakfast burrito or your breakfast pastries, your espresso, whatever on your way into work, and then you come over and have a little meeting, mid-morning snack, or come over for lunch. And you're not only getting good food, good service, but you're also helping to support our cause of training up clients in our program for entry-level positions in food service. It's a comprehensive training. It is not just a culinary thing. They go through 5 phases. Well, actually, there's 3 official phases, but they go through. They go through Serve Safe Managers training, so they have a manager's card. Food prep, that we do some of the business side of it. Then they actually do they go through our servant leadership training program, which is leadership development, management principles. Then they, while they're doing actually on-the-job training over in different stations in the restaurant. So it's a comprehensive training I would put up against just about anybody. And frankly, we haven't even started the restaurant yet, but we've had this training going without the restaurant, just using our existing food service, and we've got many people placed as assistant manager or even manager positions in the Valley in food service operations right now. So it's been very successful.
So, if there's a nonprofit, both local or nationally, listening, what advice would you give about starting a social enterprise within a nonprofit organization? It's not easy. So, what is?
Well, I think I can answer that a whole lot better in a year from now, because I'm in the middle of it.
Right in the thick of it.
First of all, I think the rule number 1: what are you doing and why? Our model, our social enterprise, there's 3 things that it has to go through. Number 1, is this good quality training for our clients that is actually going to translate into sustainable wage rate jobs? All right. In other words, if it's just a fundraising opportunity for the organization, and there's no then what are you doing? Just go do something else. So what we want to do is make sure that any industry or enterprise that we enter is actually benefiting the clients by training and advancing them, so that they can improve, either obtain work or further in their work. Secondly, it has to be program friendly. I cannot become a widget factory because the clients are in groups, they're in classes, they have childcare, they're in parenting classes. So truthfully, they're only in these work therapy and training positions for half the day, because the other half of the day they're in counseling and groups and other things. So, you really want to consider industries or enterprises that don't conflict with your main delivery or who you really are.
That's a good point.
And then third, leadership. That's my big thing. Is if a system doesn't produce leadership, I think it's flawed. And I don't know that this is a brand new management principle, but all the books and stuff and leadership and everything I've read, if you're not mentoring or producing disciples, producing other leaders, then I think there's a whole element that's missing. And so we incorporate both the servant leadership program and our ministry training program right into that. Because truthfully, we want to not just raise up workers to go into the field, we want to produce leadership for the industry. So we want to produce leadership that we can even hire to fuel our own expansion, but also for placement to reproduce. There is so many wounded and hurting people out there. And I could build 10 more of these, and it would put a bigger dent in a problem. But the problem is, it's a tsunami. It's huge, and so we've got to train up workers that are going to think like we do to go out and start programs like this all over the place. And so that's in our DNA. So it's got to be vocational development. It's got to be in the best interest of the client. If it's just a business, hire it over here on the side, pay somebody to do it, and let them give you some money, whatever. I don't know, but it's not pure. To me, that's not pure social enterprise if you're doing that. It's got to fit with what you are. It's got to be mainstream and fit right into your programmatic delivery, and it's got to produce leadership.
Wonderful.
So look into the future, a year from now, 2 years from now, when the restaurant is very successful, how many folks are now going through this program and coming out the other end as a capable assistant manager on an annual basis?
I think we would, so just remember now, I'm not sure as whether this is a reproducible model or a one-time thing just associated with this particular program because of the close geographic proximity. You can bet you my mind has gone way down the road of chains of Mission Impossible cafes all
Yes.
over North America. But let me just bring it back and say that, I would say that this program would easily produce 20 assistant manager level people, because there's different jump off points. There's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 is I finished the basic program, and so you just did the basics. So we're going to help you try to get a job in food. We're not promising you any assistant manager thing. But if I go the next 5 months and I go all the way through the servant leadership, then you should be able to get an assistant manager placement. And frankly, if I go through the third phase, which is our third phase, we actually hire them ourselves, full time, with benefits. But it's a 4 to 6 month internship. So these are the ones that are going to be training the rest, see the leadership development. So I'm really going to have 2 full-time people that are going to be managing a training system that is a pipeline that just keeps producing people. So I would say the first year 20. And I'm not kidding about this idea about if it works well, what is it? I want to be thinking about, because folks, we've got to think. There's huge problems, and so I'm trying to think on a higher level than I've ever thought before of how can I do systematic, impactful things that are not just little market niche things. So I'm 2 or 3 social enterprises down the road in my head, so I'm going to just hold on to those for now.
Perfect.
But it's going to produce. But again, also understand that the food service is only the first one. We're looking at call center potential. We're certainly looking at. There's other aspects to the hospitality industry. So there's other vocational development programs that we're looking at producing. So a current thought that's in my head is, because every time I open a paper, open my phone and read the paper, there's always needs of call center, and it's huge in the valley, and I'm sure that everybody's needing customer services. If you are good at customer service, if you're really good at customer service, I think you got a future.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean? So what if we had the best customer service training inside of a vocational development program, inside of a recovery program, you know what I mean? So that now, how good would we be at answering our phone? How good would we be on responding to website inquiries, whatever? So to me, that's something that's like, if we want to go to world-class customer service ourselves as an organization, meaning that some pastor's looking for a placement for some lady in Apache Junction, 2 o'clock this morning because they're in crisis. I mean, can we provide excellent customer service and assist that pastor to meet the need? That's just going to benefit us, tremendously. So I really am kind of really zeroing in on this customer service piece, because I think if our whole organization, even our own reception function, was a training program for our own clients, they don't have to drive anywhere. I can keep them home.
Right.
I know where they are. But I just think, so I'm kind of landing there right now is I'm studying that one. We studied the food service for 2 years before we launched, because I have all these vocational programs, and at the end of the day, when they're done, what do you have? I wanted to, and truthfully, I looked at culinary versus managers training, and because culinary is such a big word, it's such a wide. I mean, you literally can go through some culinary trainings, and at the end of the day, you might not be able to get a good job placement. But if you got that manager's training, that pretty much, that's what our homework conclusion came to, was that if you got that management skill training in there, that's sought after, because there's so much turnover. And if we can bring stability to a minister into an area where there's a ton of turnover, that's our niche.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that it seems to make sense in my mind. So
well, yeah, but then there's I can show you my big field back there that's got a big old pile of ideas that I've had before too. So
sure, right. All right, Jay, how can people get involved if they are civic-minded people? They want to make Phoenix a better place, and they view homelessness as a problem. What can somebody do to get involved?
I think the best answer for that is go to our website, because I couldn't even do it justice to say what our website does really well. PhoenixRescueMission.org, or the old way, www.phoenixrescuemission.org, and it talks about how you can give to support our organization in multiple levels, how you can get engaged in volunteering, and so the standard answer is a good answer. Is how can you help us? How can you get engaged with us? Number one, pray, because we are a Christian organization, and we certainly believe in the power of prayer, and we don't cheapen that by just a slogan. If you want to make the greatest impact, get on your knees and and pray for us. And secondly, I would say, if you're not actively engaged in service in your community, if you're not actively engaged in volunteering somewhere, whether it's your local church or whatever, you are not experiencing life to the fullest. And whether it's with Phoenix Rescue Mission or with someone else. And the really cool thing about us is it doesn't cost you hardly any time, energy or whatever to come down and help us serve a meal to the homeless. It doesn't take much time to help you come down and do just some and oftentimes somebody will finally get up the nerve to take that one step for that just basic service opportunity,
right,
and find out how easy it was, and how exciting it is. They've gone through the danger zone, right. And so if you look at our website, there's all kind of different opportunities for you to get engaged in volunteering. And so I want to say that with the loudest voice. Is taste us, come volunteer. Volunteer opportunities are everything from just one basic service to we literally have full-time people that are working with us as volunteers. We have a counselor that's not on our payroll. That's just a volunteer because they're able to do that financially. They just love us to death. We have people that teach financial classes, GED. We need to develop English as a second language. I mean, there's so many things that we need to do. We need mentors. We need tutors. We need people to help us at our food bank operation that we're starting. We just acquired Hope for Hunger Food Bank in Glendale. We actually start that Friday.
Ready or not.
Yeah, ready or not. So we have a lot of opportunities for people to get engaged. So pray, give, volunteer. And I think those are the big ones.
Nice.
We are more than happy to provide anyone with a tour. There's a tour schedule there on the website. Somebody could come down just to get a tour, see. But again, let me go back to the point. If you're not pouring out into the lives of other people, then I almost feel sorry for you, because you're not experiencing the quality of life. You got to give it away. You got to give your time, talent, and treasure. And we are a firm believer that it's more blessed to give than it is to receive, and that's not talking about just money. That's talking about your life. So please get engaged. There's a multitude of problems out here that we need people to get in the game.
I couldn't agree with that anymore. I know that I've got an 11-month-old at home, and as soon as he's able to actively come and volunteer, we're certainly going to do that. Is there an age where you say James is not going to be worthwhile because he's too young?
I'd say 11 months. No. We actually, that's all on the website.
Okay.
There's certain things that with mom and dad with them. I mean, basically, we don't want volunteers that are minors, or I think it's 16 years old or under, without their parental supervision. Obviously, we get, this is a world where you got liability and all that stuff, and so we got to have some sense with that. But we do have there's things like when we have a large community outreach event. We had back to school. We gave out backpacks and school supplies in Murphy School District. And there was a ton of moms and dads with their whole families there.
Great.
And the little kids running around giving other little kids backpacks, and so there's ways to get engaged.
Okay.
So Tari, what have we forgotten to talk about?
Answered all my questions. Thanks for being here.
Sir, what else would you like to share?
Well, I would say that that we are in 2011 we were we had about a 90 bed shelter down below Buckeye on 35th Avenue. And the Phoenix Rescue Mission has been serving in the valley since 1952. And it was a huge move to go from just having a shelter and a 30-bed recovery program down there to building this place that you all are in today, the Changing Life Center for Women and Children. So 6 years later, we increased our capacity. We've added 120 beds on the men's side for recovery. And we got this 200-bed facility here. We are going through the process right now of finalizing an expansion project for our men's recovery. So we're looking at increasing the capacity for that by a large number. We are starting our restaurant on October 2nd. So I know you're hungry out there. Come and eat.
Yes.
And we have the food bank. So we are beginning to grow and expand. We are out in neighborhoods with our street outreach throughout the valley, West Valley, East Valley, South Valley, North Valley. We have special partnerships that we just developed with the city of Glendale. So we're growing, we're expanding, and it's just an exciting time. I really don't see, I just see nothing but upside, nothing but growth, and I've never been more excited than I am right now. I love this. I love to see lives transformed, and we actually get to do that every day. And don't tell anybody, but we even get paid for it. So.
That's awesome. Jay, thank you so much for your time. Thanks as always for listening. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show, leave us a review, tell a friend. Also feel free to give us a share on social media. And as always, keep questioning because the struggle is real.